Okay, we're going to talk about synthetic division, which is very similar to polynomial long division, except it gives you an answer in a quicker amount of time. If we look at this, we've got the example 2x to the third minus 5x squared plus 3x plus 7, all being divided by x minus 2. First thing we have to realize is this x minus 2, if we solve this, if we add 2 to both sides, this tells us that our x is going to be equal to 2. This is going to be important because when we're doing synthetic division, we have to have what x is equal to, what it is that we're actually dividing by, what our number should be equal to, or our root. Now, the setup's rather easy. You just take the coefficients for each of your exponents. So my x to the third, I'll have a 2. My x squared, I'll have a negative 5. My x will be a 3. And my constant is just a 7. Now remember, I have my x equals 2. And I'm going to leave a little bit of room here, and then I'm just going to draw a straight line here. First thing we do is we bring our 2 straight down. So I'm going to throw my 2 there. Okay, next thing I do is I take this 2, and I multiply it by my root. So 2 times 2 is 4. Which is simple enough. Don't need this line anymore. If I combine these two terms now, negative 5 and 4 gives me a negative 1. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to do my negative 1 times 2. That gives me a negative 2. Now I'm going to combine 3 and negative 2 to get a positive 1, which is very good. And last but not least, I will do this one more time. I'm going to do 1 times 2 gives me a 2. I'll put that here, and I will combine with my 7 to get a 9. So believe it or not, we just did polynomial division. Now our answer, what we came up with, is just the coefficients that is going to be for our answer. We see the leading power here is an x to the third. We're dividing by an x, so our leading power for our answer is going to be an x squared. So all I'm going to do is write down my coefficient with an x squared. My next coefficient with an x. My next coefficient was just a constant. And then that 9 is going to be my remainder. And I'm going to put my remainder over what it is that I was dividing by in the first place, which is x minus 2. So we found the answer for that in a fraction of the time. Another one now, this one's set up for us. We've got x to the third minus 13x plus 12 divided by x minus 1. First thing we've got to do, this x minus 1, we've got to solve that. Really easy, it's a one step, add 1 to both sides. We'll get x equals 1, and that's going to be the root that I'm using to divide. Okay, and if I set this up over here, I've got x to the third is just a constant of 1. I have no x squared term, so I'm going to have a 0. My x term is a negative 13, and my constant's a 12. And I don't need the plus sign there, but it just reminds me that's a positive. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'll draw my line, bring my first one down. I've got a 1 here. 1 times 1 is 1. I'm going to combine 0 and 1 to get a 1. 1 times 1 is 1. I'm going to combine negative 13 and 1 to get a negative 12. Negative 12 times 1 is negative 12. Positive 12 and negative 12 give me a 0. Now this one's going to be a little different than the last one. It's not going to have a remainder. So I've got a x to the third being divided by an x. My leading exponent here is going to be an x squared. My coefficient's a 1. Next I'll have a 1x. Then I'll have a negative 12. And I have no remainder, so I can see that this is just going to give me x squared plus x minus 12. Simple enough.